Yate, my name is Klee, and I'm the designer for Burn the Fort. Today we're going to do a setup for a 4-player game. I'll also explain the setup for 2 to 3 players as we go through. The first thing that you'll do is you'll place this square game board section in the middle of your play area. Then you'll take this train token and you'll place it at the beginning of the railroad tracks, which is marked by a railroad crossing sign, also a number 1. And then you will take these game board sections and you will place them around the square section. And you can do this in accordance with your cultural directions as well, or just place them randomly. Next, the players will select one of 6 warrior player cards. You can either do this randomly or you can choose which one you would like to play. And you place them in the slots that correspond with the specific color of the game board section that you will identify with and play with throughout the game. Each player will receive a reference card, and each player will receive an alliance token that corresponds with the color matching their game board section. These will all be flipped with the 4-color side facing up to signify that everyone is in an alliance together. Next, we'll take the arrowhead token bag and we'll place all the arrowhead tokens inside and make sure that's within reach of all the players. For a 2 to 3 player game, only include the arrowhead tokens matching the color of the game board sections that are in play. If you had a 2-player game with players playing the white and the blue game board sections, then you would only use those arrowhead tokens and place them within the bag. Next, you will take the draw deck and you will locate the 3 railroad expansion cards. And for a 4-player game, you will remove one of the railroad expansion cards. For a 2 to 3 player game, you will keep all 3 in. You will divide the deck in half. You will take a railroad expansion card and place one in each of the decks, the sections of the decks, and then you will shuffle them. For a 2 to 3 player game, you will take 3 of the railroad expansion cards, place them into 3 separate decks, shuffle them independently, stack them together, and you'll be ready to go. After you're done shuffling the decks, place one on top of the other, and that deck is ready to go. You will set that in an area that's accessible to all the players. And next to it, make sure you have the area for a discard pile for the draw cards and the colonizer cards. Take the colonizer cards, shuffle them, and place them face down in the center of the game board. Designate a separate discard pile for that. Typically, we put that next to the draw deck. We recommend for beginning players to remove 7 cards. That would include 1 Alliance's Broken card, the Buffalo Hunt card, the Scorched Earth card, Smallpox Blanket card, the Massacre card, New General, and the Forced Removal card. You'll find the list of those 7 recommended cards to remove for an easier game in the game guide. Take the victory cards, shuffle them, and select a random one and place it, without looking at it, underneath the colonizer deck in the center of the game board. You'll want to make sure that the additional wagon tokens and the fire tokens are within reach of all the players, as well as the rest of the components that will be used throughout the game. Next, you will take 3 wagon tokens each and place them at the beginning of each player's trailheads. And these can be stacked on top of each other. Each player will take turns rolling for wagon movement separately and placing the wagon tokens along the game board trails that lead to the fort. Each of the gray dots along the path represent 1 point, And so those will correspond with the number on the dice that are shown. So this will be a 5. We have 2 colonizer dice that will facilitate multiple players to do this at once. For a 2 to 3 player game, you'll want to place 6 wagon tokens instead. You can also choose to place less for an easier game, and we recommend starting with 3 as well. Next, each player draws or is dealt 5 draw cards, and they receive 3 fire tokens. Players can determine whether or not they want to play their cards face up or face down, depending on how cooperatively they wish to play. Each player receives 3 fire tokens, and we place those right on our warrior player cards. Next, randomly select a US General token and read it out loud. We have 5 to choose from. We recommend for an easier game to remove the Ulysses S. Grant token and also the General Philip Sheridan token. So choose between one of the 3 remaining, and you can either do this randomly or you can choose whichever one you wish to play against. In this case, we have General Nelson Miles. In the upper left-hand corner of the token, the US General token, there's a number, and there's also an ability listed down below. We'll take this number on the US General token and we will add it to the fort point tracker. In this case, that's 6. Take the colonizer token, and it has a 10 and a 5 on either side, and you'll flip this colonizer token twice. You'll add the number of those flips to the points on the fort point tracker. In this case, we have 15. So we have a total of 21 fort defense points. And we will place these components off to the side of the play area, but still within view and reach of all the players. Place the stick die and the colonizer die within reach of all the players. For beginning players, we recommend not to flip the colonizer token at the beginning of the game. What you'll do is you'll set the fort point tracker to 10, then add the points from the US General token that you've selected. And again, only place 3 wagon tokens at the beginning of each player's trailhead. Roll for the movement. For 3 players, you can also follow the 4-player setup for a shorter game. As a gameplay variation, after a player draws a colonizer card, they can choose to block the card by asking other players the trivia question located on the bottom of the card. If any other player other than the active player gets the answer correct, then that card is blocked and is placed in the discard pile. You may also use the colonizer token to break ties. If there is a tie during any attack, the attacking player calls gold or black and flips the colonizer token, and if the call is correct, the attacking player wins. If not, they lose the tie. And that is the basic setup for a 4-player game with the notes on setting up for a 2 to 3 player game for Burn the Fort.